Good morning, fourth grade. So anyway, it's 4:47 in the morning for me, and hopefully you are all sleeping well. Now, let's see, what are we doing today? We have two passages today. These are the last two that we're doing. One is called Magnetic Attraction, and the other one is about the Great Depression. So for some reason, I always like to do the science ones first. So let's get started with magnetic attraction. I have a PowerPoint for you that I made, and let me just share my screen here and get this going. Oh, and I have a hat on because remember, it's hat day today. I'm going to wear a different one later that's a little funnier. Not that this is a funny hat. This came from a costume, and you'll have to tell me later if you recognize it and what costume it would have come from. It wasn't my costume, it was my son's costume. Something he dressed up as in high school, actually. So anyway, you'll have to let me know if you recognize it. And then later, I have a different hat that I'm going to wear for our afternoon meeting. So anyway, let's get busy. Let me share my screen. And hopefully this won't take a long time. Me trying to get this going for you guys. So let's see, magnetic attraction. Okay, I'm just going to minimize myself here. You'll still hear me, just so I can have access to my screen a little bit better. Okay, so this is my highlighted part. I'm just going to back it up a little bit. So magnetic attraction. So this is a picture of a magnet that's attracted to these nails. And then this is just another picture of two magnets that are attracted to each other. And I'm going to explain what these letters here are, what they represent. And this might be a review for you also. You might have seen this in third grade. So anyway, let me just go to my next slide. So this is what your copy looks like. And the next one is my copy, the one that I highlighted. And you can see I highlighted a lot of things because I had a lot of questions. So anyway, while I'm reading it to you, you can highlight and make your own notes and circle words that might be words you don't know that you have questions about, and hopefully I can answer those questions for you. So I always like to see what we're looking for. So you will be answering these questions. So let me read the questions to you. Let's look at the directions. Oh, and I didn't put my name on my paper. And in the presentation mode, I can't do any editing. So, but you can put your name on your paper. Let's see. Let me read this to you. Answer the following questions based on the reading passage. Don't forget to go back to the passage whenever necessary to find or confirm your answers. Okay, so number one, explain the difference between a temporary magnet and a permanent magnet. Number two, would two north poles attract each other or push away from each other? Number three, what is different about an electromagnet? 4, what do we use electromagnets for? And number 5, what does attract mean when speaking about magnets? So let's see if those questions get answered in this reading. So this is magnetic attraction, cross-curricular focus, physical science. Right. An object that attracts metals, especially iron, is called a magnet. The area near the magnet where it has enough power to attract things is called its magnetic field. The farther away from the magnet an item is, the weaker the magnetic field is. When it is weak, it is less likely an object will become attracted to the magnet. Magnets can be either permanent or temporary. A permanent magnet stays magnetized for a long time. A temporary magnet loses its magnetism after only a short time. You can even turn something made out of iron into a temporary magnet by rubbing it against a permanent magnet. The more you rub, the stronger your temporary magnet gets. However, the effects will wear off over time. The two ends of the magnets are called magnetic poles. The poles are found at the ends of bar magnets and the tips of the horseshoe magnets. They are the strongest parts of magnet. Each magnet has a north pole and a south pole. Opposite poles attract, or pull toward each other. Poles that are the same repel or push away from each other. A north pole and a south pole will pull toward each other. Two north poles will push away from each other. The same happens with two south poles. When you hold magnets, you can actually feel the push and pull effects of magnetism. A special kind of temporary magnet uses electricity to create a magnetic field. It is called an electromagnet. An electromagnet can be an extremely strong magnet. However, it only acts like a magnet when it has electricity. A stronger electrical current will produce a stronger magnet. Unlike other magnets, an electromagnet can be controlled by a switch. When the switch turns the electrical current off, the electromagnet loses its magnetism. Whatever the electromagnet was holding drops to the ground. We use this technology to operate large cranes that lift heavy metal objects, such as cars. Electromagnets are also used to make motors run in small appliances. Combining regular magnets and electromagnets makes it possible for electrical energy to be turned into energy of motion. All right. Okay, so we'll get back to those questions in just a minute. Let's go to the next slide I have here. So here's just some of the vocabulary words. So we have magnet. All right. Is a rock or a piece of metal that can pull certain types of metal toward itself. Magnetic field is the area around a magnet in which there is magnetic force. And let's see, there's permanent and temporary magnets. So a permanent magnet permanent magnets always have an active magnetic field. So an example of that would be a refrigerator magnet. It's active because you can place it on your refrigerator and it's going to stay there. So that is permanent. So with a temporary magnets can be, I'm going all crazy here with my mouse. Temporary magnets can be turned on and off. So example of this is a fan. A small appliance fan, like the one that you plug in, is the one that I'm referring to right now. So they have temporary magnets that can be turned on and off by the switch that it takes to turn it on. And we're going to get into that in a second because we're going to talk about electromagnets. Okay, so let's see. Magnetic north and south poles. So what was interesting about this was, of course, I'm thinking of the north and south poles. Like I'm sure you're thinking about the north and south poles. That we on Earth have a north pole and a south pole. So I was wondering, well, what is the connection with the magnet and how can I explain that to you? And I found this explanation that I thought made a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that it will make sense to you too. So let's see. Every magnet has two sides, a north pole and a south pole. We use these names because if you hang a magnet from a thread, the magnet's north pole points almost towards the north direction. This is because the Earth's core, its center, is a large, weak magnet. Your little strong magnet lines up with Earth's magnetic core, so it points north. That's how a magnetic compass works. So the north and south pole on a magnet is related to the vocabulary we use when we talk about the north and south poles on planet Earth. So let's see. Electromagnet is a magnet that uses electricity to power it. An example of that is an electromagnet crane, and I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like. Okay, so this is just a visual I found that I thought might be helpful. So let's see, magnets. I just want to read what's here first. A magnet has two ends, the North Pole and the South Pole. Okay, so the N is for north and the S is for south. All right, when two magnets are close, they create pushing or pulling forces on one another. These forces are strongest at the ends of the magnets. So right here, you see this character here is pushing and this one is pulling. Some magnets are stronger than others. Strong magnets will create bigger pushing or pulling forces than weak magnets. And I think this guy here is the strong magnet. That's why he's smiling. All right, and I have another, visual here for us to take a look at, and then I have this cartoon that I feel really explained it very well. Because in the article they talk about how magnets, let me get my mouse back over here, how magnets attract and repel. So these are important words, attract and repel. So here, magnets and magnetic materials create pulling and pushing forces on each other when they are close. They attract or repel each other. Okay, magnets have north and south poles, north pole, south pole. Different poles attract. Two magnets that are different poles pointing towards one another will pull towards or attract each other. Okay, so see, they're saying that this north and south attract and this south and north attract. And then over here, they're saying same poles repel. Two magnets with the same poles pointing towards one another will push away from or repel each other. So we can't get these two south poles to connect, and we can't get these two north poles to connect. So again, attract, to draw to or towards something else. A magnetic attracts iron. Oh, I said magnetic. A magnet attracts iron. Repel, to push away. Two magnets can repel each other. So here is a little video that just explains this so well, and it's really cute. I think you guys will like it. I thought it was very well done. So let me just pull this up a little bit so you can see it. Try to get bigger.
Ivan, what are you doing? I love soup so much. I'm trying to get this can to come to me just by thinking really hard about it. I wouldn't spend too much time on that experiment. Whoa! It's happening! Wait, are you tricking me with magic? Nope, not magic. It's science. This is a magnet, Izzy, and it can pull some kinds of objects towards it without even touching them. What kinds of objects? I'll show you. You just saw it move this soup can. That's because the soup can is made of steel, and steel has a metal called iron in it. And magnets work great on iron. Metal with iron, huh? Hey, it sticks to these metal scissors. But magnets won't pull this plastic cup or rubber band. But it sure likes the snail. See? If something has iron in it, a magnet can pull on it. Hey, why doesn't it stick to this penny? It's made of metal. You're right, but a penny is made of a metal called copper. And magnets don't work on copper. Let's try something else. Hi, Rascal. Hey, those button thingies sleeves on Rascal's collar must have iron in them, too. Hey, Rascal took my magnet. It's okay, Izzy. I've got plenty of others. In fact, magnets come in all different shapes, sizes, and strengths. But no matter the shape, size, or strength, every magnet has poles. Poles? Like a flagpole? No, different kinds of poles. A pole on a magnet is where the magnetic force is the strongest. And get this, every magnet has two poles. On one end is the North Pole, and on the other end is the South Pole. A pole on each end. Yep. Now try touching the ends together and see what happens. Hey, they stick together. That's because opposite poles of magnets pull each other together. We say that they attract each other. The North Pole of one magnet attracts the South Pole of the other magnet. Now flip one around and try touching them again. Whoa, that's cool. They don't want to touch. That's because the same poles push each other away. The same poles? I'm confused. See, the North Pole of one magnet will always push away the North Pole of another magnet if they come too close. Same thing happens with the South Poles. Nope, that's not going to happen. When two magnets push each other away, we say they repel each other. So how did you do the soup can trick? That's what's so cool about magnets. They can pull or push objects without even touching them. The magnet I was using was strong enough to attract the soup can through the thin tabletop. When I moved the magnet under the table, it moved the soup can on top of the table. That's really cool, Ivan. So you see, Izzy, it wasn't magic at all. It was magnets. Then how do you explain that? Oh, Rascal!
Anyway, I thought that was really cute. And I thought it explained the attract and repel very well. So anyway, so let me just finish. I think I have just a couple more visuals here and examples to show you. So let's see, temporary magnet, a magnet that stays magnetized for short periods of time. Okay, so this would not hold, so it's temporary. Permanent magnet, a magnet that maintains its magnetism without the need for electricity. All right, a magnetic field, a region of magnetic force surrounding a magnet. So these little lines here are representing the magnetic field. And when they talk about the magnetic field, they mean, you know, something in the field, in the magnetic field, it would be able to attract. Outside of the magnetic field, it would not be able to attract. So magnetic pole, the region at each end of a magnet where the external magnet field is strongest. And so we know now that this is the south pole of the magnet and this is the north pole. Okay, so temporary magnet versus permanent magnet. So the temporary magnet, they show this as an example of an electromagnet because this is a closed circuit and it's using electricity for its magnetic field, okay, by being connected to the battery. Now here with the permanent magnet, it's like the refrigerator magnet. You know, it has a magnetic field in place and it doesn't need electricity to be magnetic. So let's see, let me go here. Okay, so I know this is a little crowded here, but they're talking about electromagnets. So this is an example of an electromagnet. And then also in the PowerPoint, they talked about an electromagnet that would pick up a car. Okay, now the electromagnets have to be, they're operated with a switch, okay, to get the electricity going to it. And then this is just like an example with the battery and a coil, okay? And so let's see what the definition is. Okay, unlike bar magnets, which are permanent magnets, the magnetism of electromagnets can be turned on and off. So like this crane can be turned on and off, and this electromagnet can be turned on and off. Okay, so when a current flows through the coil, it produces a magnetic field. This field is temporary and is lost when the current is switched off. And so they're talking about a direct current, and you have been learning about this. And hopefully this is starting to make sense to you. Let's see, an electromagnet is temporary. The magnetic field only exists when electric current is flowing. All right, and so then I found some examples. So maybe you could relate to them. So let's see, some everyday devices that have electromagnets inside them include microphones, speakers, headphones, telephones, and loudspeakers, electric motors and generators, doorbells and electric buzzers, computer hard drives, and multiple household appliances. And they talk about the fan a lot, like spinning appliances, beaters, things like that. Let's see. So loudspeakers use electromagnets to vibrate the cone and produce sound. So let's see. This is our electromagnetic crane that can pick up all of this junk. Now, another example, because they use the example in the reading passage about an magnetic crane picking up a car, right? Well, sometimes when you go to like junkyards, they will have these types of cranes that'll pick up the metals, and so they can move them around. All right, so this is an example, and this diagram shows you a little bit better. So this is the cable to, and they say DC, which is direct current, right? And then they're showing this part here is the electromagnet, and this is the scrap iron. And like I said, this machine here, you know, they were just showing you a blown up part of it here, a magnified part. Okay, and so this is the electromagnetic crane. You can't see the whole thing, but you get the idea, right? Okay, and then this is another just really short cartoon that I think really kind of explains what an electromagnet is. It's much shorter than the other one. And I think it helps, well, it helped me visualize it better. So let's see if we can get this going.
What? Oh, you want to know what? What? Oh, you want to know why this battery and cell wire is in the magnetic kit. Did you know that electricity can also create magnetism? You don't believe me? Okay, take that wire and roll it over a nail. Now tie both ends of this wire to both sides of the battery cell. Take a few paper pins near this nail. See, paper pins are being attracted to the nail. This is called an electromagnet. This magnetic effect comes due to electricity. So when you run an electric current into a wire, it creates a magnetic field, making the wire an electromagnet. The difference between an electromagnet and a regular magnet is that you can increase or decrease the power of the magnet by controlling the supply of electric current. If you increase the amount of current, it becomes more powerful. Similarly, if you decrease the power, it becomes less powerful. So you can control the power of magnetism in an electromagnet. Electromagnets are used in many appliances like the refrigerator, fans, doorbells, etc. And they help make our life easier. Okay?
All right, so hopefully that helps. Helps you visualize it. And let me just go back to the beginning because I want to show you what you need to work on now. Okay, so you're going to answer these questions, and I think that you have all the information right here to answer these questions. In fact, I know you have all the information in here to answer these questions. So go ahead and answer these questions. I'll switch over to my other PowerPoint on the Great Depression, which isn't as long. It's much shorter. And let's see. So let me do that really quick. I'm just going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pause this for a second so I can find it without you having to wait. So hold on. I'm going to pull my other PowerPoint up just like. Okay. So we're back, and this is the other reading passage. It's called The Great Depression. This is a very famous photo that's used quite a bit when talking about the Great Depression. And so let me just explain it. This is a photographer. The photographer's name is Dorothea Lange. This is not the photographer, but the person who took the picture is the photographer, Dorothea Lange. And she's named this picture that she took Migrant Mother. And it's, when it says depicts, it says it's showing the destitution or destitute pea pickers in California. Okay. Now this is, it says centering on Florence Owens Thompson. So this is Florence Owens Thompson, age 32, a mother of 7 children in Nipomo, California. Now this was taken back in 1936. So that was quite a long time ago, right? And I looked up where Nipomo, California is because I didn't know. And it's actually in San Luis Obispo County. And I know you guys know, or at least my students know where San Luis Obispo is because that's where my son goes to college. Cal Poly is there, the school he goes to. So let's see. So you have this. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So the Great Depression. Oh, I see. I'm just playing it, and it's already done. So let me go back. All right. So this is what I'm hoping you have in front of you. I know I cut off the top part here, the Great Depression, but on the next slide, you'll see that you can see it, the Great Depression. And this is my highlighted part. And I don't know why I used 2 different colors of highlighters, but also I did a lot of highlighting on this one too. And there's some vocabulary words that I think are very important to learn. And let's see what the questions are. Answer the following questions based on the reading passage. Don't forget to go back to the passage whenever necessary to find or confirm your answers. Okay, so all the answers are going to be here to these questions. All right, so let's see. My little block here is covering the question, but I can read it and hopefully you have yours in front of you because I have a hard copy in front of me. So number 1, which amendment to the Constitution made alcohol illegal? Number 2, imagine living on a farm at the time of a huge dust storm. And I think we've talked about this when we talked about the dust storms before. Would you stay or would you move west? And why? So that's your opinion. Number 3, what is a share? Okay, this is obviously a multi-meaning word because we talk about share to share something if I wanted to share something with you, but this is a different meaning and you'll find out about it in here. So what is a share? Okay, now 4, what is a depression? Okay, and they explain that in here. This is also kind of a multiple meaning word because if you don't put A in front of it, like a depression, and you were just going to say depression, then you might think of, you know, the emotional depression, you know, maybe someone is depressed, something like this. But when it says, what is a depression, they're talking about the Great Depression, and they'll explain it to you. Let's see. Number 5, what started the Great Depression? Okay, and so they're going to explain in here the things that started the Great Depression. And I went into your social studies book, and I believe you're all going to be getting your social studies book in your packets next week. I'm putting them in your packets in my classroom. And I believe Mrs. Hemingway and Mrs. Evanson are doing the same thing. And if you wanted to go back into your social studies book, it talks about the Great Depression, and it talks about cause and effect, right? So when they say what started the Great Depression, you're going to find in your social studies book and in here the things that caused the Great Depression or started the Great Depression. All right. So let me read this to you. The Great Depression, cross-curricular focus, history, social sciences. All right, the 1920s, so we're talking 100 years ago, right? The 1920s in the United States were a time of success and great wealth. America's millionaires had lots of parties. The parties sometimes lasted for weeks. The 18th Amendment to the Constitution, known as Prohibition, became law in 1920. It made it illegal to make or sell alcohol. Some people found ways to get around the law. They used secret tunnels and other ways to transport alcohol. There were many fast-speed police chases in the dark of night. Organized crime or gangsters made large amounts of money selling alcohol. Prohibition was not repealed or canceled until the 21st Amendment was passed in 1933. So, how many years then was there prohibition? Someone will do the math for me and tell me this afternoon. Through most of the 1920s, businesses were growing. There were plenty of jobs for everyone. In 1929, the economy suddenly fell apart when the stock market failed. The stock market is an economic system, let me fix my mouse here, that allows people to buy and sell shares of companies. A share gives people part ownership of businesses. People's shares became almost worthless, sending the country into very hard times. When an area goes through a time of very little business activity, it is called a depression. The stock market crash was so bad that the depression it caused was the worst in United States, had ever experienced. Let me see, did I read that right? The stock market crash was so bad that the depression it caused was the worst the US had ever experienced. I think there's a typo there. I think that should be ED. All right. This time period became known as the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, many people lost their jobs. They even lost their farms and homes. People could not feed their families. Poverty, disease, and starvation affected most of the nation. There was a severe drought at the same time in the middle of the US. The lack of rain made the ground so dry it turned to dust. Huge dust storms turned daylight to darkness. People got sick from the dust. Some even died from breathing too much dust. This time became known as the Dust Bowl. Thousands of people moved west in search of work and better lives during this time. The Great Depression finally ended when the US entered World War II in 1941. Many new jobs were created as war supplies like aircraft and ships were needed to support the war effort. During World War II, it was hard to get enough of some supplies. Inflation, or the raising of prices, made goods expensive. Because of the war, there just was not enough for everyone. The government had to ration some items like butter and gasoline. People were only allowed to buy so much of an item. Though the war years were difficult, people remembered how much harder it was during the Great Depression. The times were better than before. Okay, so let's see. So you're going to answer these questions. Okay, I wanted to go over the vocabulary a little bit, so I have a vocabulary page here. All right, so amendment, change or addition to a law is called an amendment. Prohibition, the action of forbidding something, especially by law. Repeal, to do away with, especially by legislative action. The law was repealed. Share, a share is a single unit of ownership in a company. Great Depression, the Great Depression was a time of great economic crisis during the 1930s. Stock market crash is a sudden dramatic decline of stock prices. Drought is a continuous period of dry weather, no rain. Inflation means that the general level of prices is going up. Ration, limit the amount each person is allowed because there's not enough of it. So what's really interesting is we're actually going through a lot of these things right now with COVID-19, excuse me. So there could be a depression coming for us right now because there's not a lot of jobs, and the inflation means that the general level of prices is going up, and so they're starting to see that, you know, like things that are in high demand, like toilet paper, or, you know, eggs and meat and things like that. Those prices look like they're going up. Now, we don't have any government rations right now, but we do know that when we go into the store right now that we can't buy as much toilet paper as we want, that they're limiting the amount each person is allowed to buy. That way all of us can get some. Let's see. So I thought this was really cute. It's only 1 minute long, and she's going to explain to you what the stock market is. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at this.
Hi, it's Malia. Today I'm going to show you what the stock market is in under 1 minute. Brought to you by RH Journey. A stock market is where people buy and sell stocks and bonds. Businesses need money to grow. Some businesses sell shares, also known as stocks. Stocks are units of ownership in a company. A person who buys stocks in a company is called a shareholder. Shareholders own part of a company. The price of a single stock can be from under $10 to more than $300,000. The prices of shares constantly go up and down. When shareholders invest in the stock market, they hope they can buy the stock at a lower price and then sell it at a higher price. People who hold on to stocks longer than most, to about 15 years or more, are more likely to succeed in stock markets. So that's it. That's the end of my 1 minute video about stocks. If you want to...
Okay, so isn't that, I thought that was very, very cute. And of course, you're not going to know everything about the stock market, but it gives you a little introduction to it, because as you get older, you'll be learning about it in every grade that you're in, most likely. So let's see. Let me just go back to our questions. Okay, so now, so that PowerPoint is finished. And so now you're going to go and you're going to go back here on your paper and you're going to put your name and you're going to answer these questions. Okay. Now, I will just see if I can't, hey there. All right. So anyway, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to answer those questions, and you're going to answer the questions on the magnetic attraction. And I will see you at 2:20 today. This is going to be our last Zoom class meeting today. And so I know that Mrs. Evanson and Mrs. Hemingway and I are all looking forward to seeing you all. And we're hoping that you can all be there. And remember to wear a hat. I have a different hat picked out for later. And I'm looking forward to wearing it for you. So anyway, so I will try to send out the Zoom link anywhere between 2 and 2:15. And as you know, if you've been coming regularly, you know that you then have to wait for me to let everybody in, and that's going to be at 2:20. Okay, and then for my students, I text you the links, and I will also do that today. So I will see you all later. I'll see you at 2:20. All right, bye.